The stars shimmered against the black void as the Krozak warship cut through space. Inside the command chamber, Warlord Scare stood with his clawed hands behind his back. His scaled skin reflected the blue light from the ship's controls. Around him, other Krozak warriors worked at their stations, their movements quick and precise. Scar's yellow eyes narrowed as he studied the holographic map of the galaxy. 32 star systems glowed red, marking the territories the Krozak had conquered. No species had ever truly challenged them. The Krozak were the perfect hunters, born with natural armor, superior strength, and minds filled with hunting knowledge passed down through their genetic memory. "Warlord," said Commander Vextor as he entered the chamber. He lowered his head in respect. "The last of the Meridian resistance has been crushed. Their home world is ours." Scar nodded slowly. "They fought well for a weak species, but like all others, they failed." "Yes, Warlord. Their technology was impressive, but their bodies were soft. They lacked the killer instinct." Vextor moved closer to the holographic map. "However, we found something interesting in their databanks." With a tap of his claw, Vextor brought up an image of a small solar system at the edge of the galaxy. 8 planets circled a yellow star. The Meridians had been observing this system from afar. They never made contact, Vextor explained. The 3rd planet shows signs of intelligent life. The inhabitants appear to be at an early spacefaring stage. Scar studied the image of the blue and green planet. "What do we know of these creatures?" "Very little, Warlord. The Meridians called them humans. They seem physically unimpressive. No natural weapons, thin skin, average strength. But the Meridians noted some unusual traits." "Such as?" Scar asked, his interest growing. "They are highly adaptive and show remarkable endurance, and there are many of them, billions spread across their world." Scar laughed, a harsh sound that made younger warriors look up from their stations. "Numbers mean nothing without strength. The Jiraki had billions too, and we hunted them to extinction in a single season." "Of course, Warlord," Vextor agreed quickly. "I simply thought you would want to know all details before we add their world to our hunting grounds." Scar walked around the holographic display, examining the Earth from all angles. Something about this discovery excited him. The Krozak had conquered so many worlds that the thrill of the hunt was fading. Perhaps these humans would provide at least a small challenge. "Prepare a scouting ship," Scar ordered. "I want to know more about these humans before we begin the hunt." "Would you like me to lead the scouting mission, Warlord?" Vextor asked. Scar considered this for a moment. "Yes. Take a small team. Study these humans. Capture a few specimens for our scientists to examine. I want to know their strengths and weaknesses." "As you command," Vextor said with another bow. "When shall we depart?" "Immediately," Scar replied. "If these humans are as weak as they appear, we could begin the main hunt within the changing of a moon." As Vextor left to prepare his team, Scar continued to study the image of Earth. He felt the familiar hunger rising within him, the desire to conquer, to prove the superiority of the Krozak over all other life forms. Little did he know that on the blue planet spinning below, a species unlike any the Krozak had encountered was about to change the course of galactic history. Humans had evolved not as pure predators like the Krozak, but as something far more complex, creatures who had survived by being both predator and prey. They had developed skills the Krozak couldn't understand: cooperation, innovation, and a fierce determination that grew stronger in the face of threats. The Krozak scout ship departed later that day, jumping into hyperspace on a course for Earth. The greatest hunt in Krozak history was about to begin, but it wouldn't end the way Warlord Scar expected. Lieutenant Abby Clark yawned as she guided her patrol ship through the rings of Saturn. This was her 3rd month on outer system duty, and the endless hours of monitoring deep space had become routine. Her radar screen showed nothing but the usual asteroid fragments and ice particles. "Base, this is Pathfinder," she said into her radio. "Sector 7 is clear." Moving to Sector 8. Copy that. Pathfinder, the voice from Earth replied. 2 more hours and you can come home. Abby smiled at the thought of a hot shower and real food. She turned her ship toward the next patrol area when a red alert flashed on her console. Something large had just appeared at the edge of Neptune's orbit. Base, I'm picking up an unidentified object, she reported, suddenly alert. Mass reading is huge. It's not one of ours. Stand by, Pathfinder. The voice sounded tense now. After a brief pause. Confirm visual if possible, but maintain safe distance. Abby adjusted her course, heart pounding. No asteroid moved like that. As she approached, she saw it. A sleek, dark vessel unlike anything humans had built. Its surface seemed to ripple like muscle beneath skin. Base, you need to see this, she whispered, activating her ship's cameras. 2,000 miles away on Earth, Park Ranger John Miller led a group of hikers through Montana's wilderness. The evening was peaceful until strange lights appeared in the sky. The hikers pointed and gasped as the lights moved in patterns no aircraft could manage. Everyone stay calm, John said, though his own pulse quickened. It's probably just military exercises. But John knew no military aircraft moved like that. He reached for his radio to report the sighting when it crackled to life. All park rangers returned to stations immediately. This is not a drill. In Washington, D.C., Alan Wright stared at the massive screens covering the walls of the Space Defense Command Center. Satellite images showed an alien vessel approaching Earth. Phones rang constantly as reports flooded in from observatories and military bases worldwide. Mr. Director, the President is on line 1, his assistant said. Wright picked up the phone. Mr. President, it's confirmed. We have a non-terrestrial craft in our solar system. Have they made contact? The President asked. Not yet, sir. We've transmitted peaceful greetings on all frequencies, but... Wright stopped as one of the technicians waved frantically. Sir, they're responding. The main screen flickered, then showed a creature unlike anything Wright had seen. It had scaled skin, yellow eyes with vertical pupils, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. People of Earth, the creature spoke in perfect English, shocking everyone in the room. I am Commander Vextor of the Krazak Empire. Your world has been chosen for conquest. Your species will submit to testing and evaluation. Resistance is pointless. The transmission ended. Wright's hands trembled as he relayed this to the President. High above Earth, Abby watched a smaller craft launched from the alien ship, one headed straight for her wingman's vessel. Rick, evasive maneuvers, she shouted into her radio. Lieutenant Rick Owens tried to escape, but the alien craft moved with impossible speed. A beam of light shot out, freezing his ship in place. Abby could only watch helplessly as his vessel was pulled toward the mothership. Abby, they're boarding. Rick's voice came through, filled with fear. They look like dinosaurs with tech. His transmission cut off. Abby hit her thrusters to full power, racing back toward Earth. She had to warn them. The alien ship made no move to pursue her. It didn't consider her a threat. Inside the Krazak vessel, Commander Vextor watched as his soldiers brought in the captured human pilot. Rick struggled against his captors, but their strength was too great. Excellent, Vextor said, examining the human with curious eyes. Take him to the laboratory. I want to know everything about their biology. He turned to his communications officer. Send word to Warlord Scare. Tell him we have made contact with the humans and begun collecting specimens. Their technology is primitive. This conquest will be swift. The officer nodded and sent the message, not knowing that the Krazak's long history of easy victories was about to end. Deep within the Krazak scout ship, Lieutenant Rick Owens lay strapped to a metal table. Bright lights shone down on him as 3 alien scientists moved around the room. Their clawed hands held strange tools that hummed and glowed. Rick tried to break free, but the restraints were too strong. Subject displays higher than expected muscle density, one scientist said, pressing a device against Rick's arm. Still far inferior to Krazak standards, but stronger than the Meridians. The lead scientist, Kresh, leaned close to Rick's face. His forked tongue flicked out, tasting the air. Fear response is typical of prey species. Heart rate elevated, stress hormones released. He made notes on a glowing pad. Begin the endurance test. A clear mask was placed over Rick's face. The air became thin, making it hard to breathe. The scientists watched with interest as Rick gasped and struggled. Remarkable, Kresh said after several minutes. Most species would have lost consciousness by now. They removed the mask, allowing Rick to breathe normally again. Next came tests of pain tolerance, reaction time, and healing. After hours of testing, Kresh compiled his findings and sent for Commander Vextor. Vextor entered the laboratory and studied the human. What have you learned? The humans are physically weaker than us in almost every way, Kresh explained. No natural weapons, no armor, limited strength. But they have unusual traits. Their endurance exceeds most species we've encountered. They recover quickly from pain and injury. And most concerning, he hesitated. Speak freely, Vextor ordered. Their brain scans show complex problem-solving abilities. They adapt quickly, even under stress. This one, he pointed to Rick, has been analyzing our technology while we tested him. He's looking for weaknesses. Vextor moved closer to Rick. Is that true, human? Are you studying us? His yellow eyes narrowed. It won't help you. The Krazak have conquered species far more advanced than yours. Rick stared back defiantly. We're not like the others. Vextor laughed. They all say that. Before the end, he turned back to Kresh. Continue your tests. I must report to Warlord Scare. In his private chamber, Vextor prepared his transmission. The holographic image of Warlord Scare appeared, his massive form dwarfing Vextor's. Report, Scar demanded. We have captured several humans for testing, Vextor began. They are physically inferior, as expected. No natural defenses, limited strength. Good. Prepare for the main invasion. Vextor shifted uncomfortably. There are some concerns, Warlord. The humans show unusual resilience and problem-solving abilities. They also possess nuclear weapons, primitive but destructive. I recommend caution. Scare's eyes flashed with anger. Caution. Since when do Krazak hunters fear primitive prey? He leaned forward. Your concerns are noted, Commander. But I will not delay the glory of conquest for unfounded fears. Send a hunting party to their largest population center. Let us test these humans in combat. As you command, Warlord. Vextor bowed, ending the transmission. He stood silently for a moment. Something about these humans troubled him. In 30 conquests, he had never felt this uncertainty. Perhaps it was nothing. Perhaps humans would fall like all the others. Back in the laboratory, Rick had managed to loosen one restraint while the scientists were distracted. He watched them carefully, waiting for his chance. One of their devices had a sharp edge that could serve as a weapon, if he could reach it. The door slid open as Vextor returned. He noticed Rick's partially freed hand and smiled coldly. A fighter, he said, tightening the restraint himself. Good. It's always more satisfying when prey struggles. He turned to the scientists. Prepare the hunting party. We land on Earth tomorrow. As Vextor left, Rick closed his eyes, hoping someone had heard his distress call before the aliens captured him. Earth needed to prepare. The Krazak were coming, and they had no idea what they were walking into. The sky over Denver turned an angry red at sunset. Most people were too busy watching the news about the alien ship to notice. Police officer Kate Martinez stood in the middle of a crowded street, trying to keep people calm. Her radio crackled with urgent messages from across the city. All units, strange object entering atmosphere over downtown. This is not a drill. Kate looked up and saw it, a dark shape cutting through the clouds. It was smaller than she expected, about the size of a bus. The alien craft landed in the center of Civic Center Park, crushing trees and benches beneath it. A crowd gathered at a distance, phones recording. "Everyone back," Kate shouted, drawing her gun. "Get inside now." A door opened in the side of the craft. 5 tall figures stepped out. They were exactly as Lieutenant Abby Clark had described in her emergency broadcast. Reptilian, heavily muscled, with natural armor covering their bodies. Each carried what looked like a weapon. The lead alien, larger than the others, surveyed the crowd with yellow eyes. Then it raised its weapon and fired. A beam of light struck a man in the front row, dropping him instantly. People screamed and ran. Kate fired her pistol. The bullets hit the alien but bounced off its scales. It turned toward her, seeming more annoyed than hurt. Kate dove behind a concrete planter as the alien fired. The beam melted the concrete inches from her head. "Dispatch, we need SWAT, military, everything," she yelled into her radio. "Regular weapons aren't working." Across town, Army Captain Frank Peterson was already mobilizing his team. 20 soldiers in full combat gear piled into armored vehicles. Frank had been preparing since the first alien transmission. He had studied the limited footage of the aliens and developed possible tactics. "Remember, aim for the joints and eyes," he told his team. "Those areas might be vulnerable, and stay together. No lone heroes today." By the time they reached downtown, chaos had spread. The aliens had split up, each hunting humans through the streets. Bodies lay where they had fallen. Frank directed his team to set up defensive positions and evacuate civilians. He found Kate hiding in a store, helping wounded people. Her arm was burned where an alien beam had grazed her. "Officer Martinez," Frank asked. "I'm Captain Peterson. What can you tell me about them?" "They're tough," Kate said, wincing as a medic treated her arm. "Bullets just bounce off. And they're fast, stronger than they look. But they're hunting alone, not as a team." Frank nodded. "That's useful. Anything else?" "They seem to enjoy it," Kate said quietly. "The killing. Like it's a sport." Frank's face hardened, not for much longer. He divided his soldiers into 5 teams, each tasked with tracking one alien. Frank led the team hunting the largest Krozak, the one who had first fired on civilians. They followed it through a shopping mall, finding a trail of destruction. The alien warrior, Vakor, was enjoying himself. These humans were soft prey, but they ran in interesting patterns. He had killed 12 already, marking each with a claw slash as trophy counts. He entered a food court, seeing more humans hiding under tables. As Vakor raised his weapon, a barrage of gunfire hit him from 3 directions. The bullets still couldn't penetrate his scales, but the force pushed him back. He turned to fire at the soldiers, but they were already moving to new positions. Frank's strategy was working. They couldn't kill the alien with bullets, but they could distract it. Meanwhile, 2 soldiers had moved to higher ground with a different weapon, a liquid nitrogen canister modified into a freezing spray. They doused Vakor from above. The extreme cold made his scales brittle. The alien roared in pain and confusion. This had never happened on any hunt before. When Vakor tried to fire his weapon, Frank shot it out of his hand. The alien charged at Frank, moving with incredible speed despite the cold. But the humans had planned for this too. A tripwire caught Vakor's leg, sending him crashing through a glass storefront. Before the alien could recover, Frank's team fired everything they had at his now frozen chest scales. Finally, the armor cracked. Vakor looked down in shock at his own green blood before collapsing. Across the city, similar scenes played out. The humans suffered heavy losses, but 3 of the 5 aliens were killed. The remaining 2 retreated to their ship and took off, fleeing back to the mothership. In orbit, Commander Vextor received their report with growing concern. For the first time in Krozak history, a hunting party had failed. Warlord Scare crushed the metal table with his fist. The other Krozak officers stepped back, avoiding his rage. No hunting party had ever failed before. This was new and unwelcome. Impossible. Skar roared. 5 elite warriors defeated by primitive prey. Commander Vextor stood his ground. The humans fought differently than expected, Warlord. They used group tactics against our solo hunters. They adapted their weapons to exploit weaknesses in our natural armor. Weaknesses? Skar's eyes narrowed dangerously. Tactical weaknesses, Vextor corrected quickly. Our warriors fought as they always have, as individual hunters seeking glory. The humans coordinated their efforts. Skar paced the command room. Then we will show them true Krozak might. Prepare the entire battle fleet. We will darken their skies with our ships. Vextor bowed. As you command. On Earth, NASA engineer Pete Wilson studied pieces of alien technology recovered from the Denver battle. The weapon from the fallen Krozak warrior had strange components he'd never seen before. He worked day and night in a secure facility alongside scientists from around the world. Look at this, Pete said to his colleague. The power source has a bioelectric field that resonates at a specific frequency. He checked his readings again. If we could disrupt that frequency. In another part of the facility, Lieutenant Abby Clark had been promoted to commander. She worked with pilots from different countries, sharing what she knew about the alien ships. They're fast, Abby explained, pointing to simulation screens. But they follow predictable attack patterns. They rely on superior technology and strength, not strategy. A young pilot raised her hand, like predators that never needed to worry about their prey fighting back. Abby nodded. Exactly. We can use that against them. Countries around the world united against the common threat. Old enemies shared military resources and scientific knowledge. In underground bunkers, factories worked at full capacity to build weapons based on Pete's discoveries. Captain Frank Peterson, now a major after the Denver battle, trained soldiers worldwide via video link. The Krozak are strong, but they fight as individuals, he explained. We win by working together. At the United Nations, Director Alan Wright addressed world leaders. Our satellite network has detected a large fleet approaching Earth. We have days, not weeks, to prepare. One night, Pete burst into the command center, his eyes wide with excitement. We did it. We found a way to disrupt their bioelectric fields. It won't kill them, but it will disable their weapons and maybe even hurt them. Engineers rushed to adapt the technology for use in missiles, fighter jets, and ground weapons. Time was running out. In space, the Krozak battle fleet approached Earth, 50 massive warships carrying thousands of warriors. Commander Vextor stood beside Warlord Skar on the bridge of the flagship. Begin the attack, Skar ordered. Target their largest cities first. Vextor hesitated. Warlord, perhaps we should study their defenses more carefully. The preliminary hunt revealed unexpected. Are you questioning my orders? Skar's voice was deadly quiet. No, Warlord. Vextor bowed his head. The attack begins now. On Earth, people watched the sky as the alien ships appeared, huge dark shapes blocking the sun. In military bases worldwide, pilots climbed into jets equipped with new weapons. Infantry units took positions in cities with modified rifles. Scientists hurried to finish the planetary defense shield based on Pete's discoveries. Commander Abby Clark strapped herself into the cockpit of her fighter. Her squadron would be the first to engage the aliens. This is it, everyone, she said over the radio. Remember your training. They expect us to run and hide. Let's show them what happens when you corner a species that's been fighting its own kind for thousands of years. Her squadron took off, joined by fighters from every nation. Behind them, missile batteries prepared to fire. On the ground, millions of people refused to panic or flee. Instead, they prepared to fight. The Krozak invasion had begun, but the greatest hunters in the galaxy were about to learn a harsh lesson. Humans were not just prey. They were survivors. The Krozak warships descended through Earth's atmosphere, their massive hulls glowing red with heat. Laser beams sliced through buildings in London, New York, Beijing, and dozens of other cities. People ran for the shelters as the ground shook beneath their feet. Commander Abby Clark led her squadron toward the largest alien ship. Her fighter jet was equipped with the new disruptor missiles designed by Pete Wilson's team. "Eagle Squadron, stay in formation," she ordered through her radio. "Remember, their ships have blind spots beneath the weapon pods. Aim for those areas." The alien fighters swarmed around them, faster and more heavily armed. But they attacked one by one, each pilot seeking individual glory. The human pilots worked as a team, covering each other and focusing fire on single targets. "Fox 1. Abby shouted as she launched a disruptor missile at the lead alien fighter. The missile hit its mark, releasing a pulse that made the ship's weapons flicker and die. The confused alien pilot veered away, suddenly defenseless. On the ground, the Krozak landing parties found something unexpected. Instead of fleeing in terror, humans fought back from prepared positions. In the ruins of Chicago, Navy SEAL Greg Hudson led a team armed with liquid nitrogen weapons and disruptor grenades. "Wait until they're inside the kill zone," Greg whispered to his soldiers as they watched 5 Krozak warriors enter the damaged shopping mall. "Remember, aim for the joints where their armor is weakest." When the aliens passed the marked position, Greg triggered the trap. Hidden sprinklers sprayed the Krozak with a chemical that interfered with their bioelectric fields. The aliens roared in pain and confusion as their weapons malfunctioned. Greg's team attacked from multiple directions, using teamwork to overwhelm the disoriented warriors. The Krozak fought fiercely but couldn't coordinate their efforts. One by one, they fell. In her laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains, scientist Lisa Patel worked frantically to complete her bioweapon. Using samples from the dead Krozak in Denver, she had discovered a weakness in their nervous system. "It attacks the neural pathways unique to their species," she explained to Director Wright via video link. "It won't kill them, but it will paralyze them temporarily." "How soon can you deploy it?" Wright asked. "The aerosol version is ready now. If we can get it into their ship's ventilation systems." On the Krozak flagship, Warlord Scare watched the battle with growing rage. His warriors were dying at an alarming rate. The humans fought with unexpected skill and courage. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "They are weak prey." Commander Vextor studied the battle reports. "They adapt quickly, Warlord. They identified our weaknesses from the first encounter and developed countermeasures. And they fight as a collective, coordinating their attacks. Krozak do not need such tactics." Scar snarled. "We are superior hunters. Perhaps against prey that accepts its fate," Vextor said carefully. "These humans fight like cornered predators themselves." Before Scare could respond, the ship rocked violently. Alarms blared as system after system failed. "We've been hit with an electromagnetic pulse weapon," an officer reported. "Weapons are offline in sectors 3 through 7. Scare grabbed his personal weapon. "Prepare boarding parties. We will hunt them face to face." Thousands of Krozak warriors descended to Earth in drop pods. They expected to find terrified prey. Instead, they found humans who had been preparing for this moment. In London, Paris, and Tokyo, civilians worked alongside soldiers, using improvised weapons and traps. In Moscow, farmers with hunting rifles stood shoulder to shoulder with special forces. In Rio de Janeiro, police officers led organized resistance in the faithless. The Krozak had never experienced anything like this. On every world they had conquered, resistance collapsed when leaders were killed. But humans fought harder when their commanders fell. New leaders stepped up immediately, continuing the battle without hesitation. In orbit, Abby Clark's squadron had disabled 3 Krozak destroyers. She targeted the flagship next, diving through heavy fire to deploy her last disruptor missile. "For Earth," she cried as the missile streaked toward its target. Inside the flagship, Warlord Scare felt something unfamiliar as the ship shuddered from another hit. For the first time in his life, the greatest hunter in the galaxy felt fear. Smoke filled the sky over every major city on Earth. The battle had raged for 3 days without pause. Krozak ships hovered above the ruins, but they no longer fired with confidence. Human fighters darted between them, striking with disruptor weapons that left the alien vessels crippled. In what remained of the White House, Director Alan Wright coordinated the global counterattack. Maps and screens covered the walls of the underground command center. Military leaders from around the world joined via secure video links. "The time to push back is now," Wright said, pointing to the largest alien ship. "Our scientists have modified 10 nuclear missiles with the disruptor technology. If we can take out their flagship, we might break their chain of command." Commander Abby Clark volunteered to lead the attack. Her squadron had the highest success rate against the alien fighters. 12 hours later, she sat in her cockpit, watching the massive alien flagship through the clouds. Her fighter had been modified with extra shielding and the latest disruptor weapons. "All wings report in," she said into her radio. "Red wing standing by. Blue wing standing by. Green wing standing by." Abby took a deep breath. "Remember the plan. Red and blue wings will draw their fighters away. Green wing will escort the missile carriers to the target zone. My team will open a path to their main reactor." The fighters launched from hidden airfields across the globe, converging on the flagship from different directions. As expected, the Krazak sent out their fighters to intercept. On the ground, John Miller led a different kind of attack. After witnessing the aliens in Montana, the former park ranger had joined a special research team. They had discovered something crucial about the Krazak. "They communicate with pheromones during battle," John explained to his team as they prepared their equipment. "These devices will release counterfeit pheromones that should confuse them." His team moved through the ruins of Seattle toward a landed Krazak ship. When the alien warriors emerged, John activated the device. Immediately, the Krazak began looking around in confusion, unable to coordinate their movements. In orbit, Abby's squadron punched through the alien defenses. Her fighter raced along the surface of the flagship, dodging laser fire. She launched her disruptor missiles at a weak point identified by Pete Wilson's analysis team. "Direct hit," she shouted as explosions rippled across the ship's hull. "Missile carriers, you are clear to approach." Inside the flagship, alarms blared as systems failed. Warlord Scare roared orders, but many communication channels were down. Commander Vextor rushed to the bridge, dodging falling debris. "Warlord, we must retreat and regroup," he urged. "The humans have disabled our main weapons and shields." "Krazak do not retreat," Scar bellowed, though fear flashed in his eyes. A massive explosion rocked the ship as the first human missile struck. Scar was thrown across the bridge, his armored body crashing into a control panel. Green blood flowed from a wound in his side. The Krazak crews watched in shock. Their warlord, the greatest hunter in the galaxy, was injured. Some warriors began moving toward the escape pods without orders. On Earth, Lisa Patel's bioweapon was deployed against the ground forces. Canisters released the aerosol agent near Krazak positions. The affected warriors collapsed, their nervous systems temporarily paralyzed. Greg Hudson's SEAL team captured one of the alien landing craft intact. They used it to approach the damaged flagship, planning to board and plant explosives at critical points. Director Wright coordinated all these attacks from the command center. For the first time, he allowed himself to feel hope. "We're pushing them back," he said to his staff. "Keep the pressure on every front." The Krazak had never experienced a counterattack like this. Their entire conquest strategy relied on swift victory through superior strength. They had no protocols for extended resistance. As more ships were disabled and more warriors fell, confusion spread through their ranks. Commander Vextor helped the injured Warlord Scare to an escape pod. "We must preserve our forces, Warlord. We can return with a larger fleet." Scar looked out at the planet below, where his invincible hunters were being hunted. "What are these humans?" he whispered. "How do they fight this way?" Vextor had no answer. The Krazak had finally met an enemy they couldn't understand and couldn't defeat with brute force alone. The battle for Earth reached its peak 7 days after the invasion began. Half the Krozak fleet had been disabled or destroyed. The remaining ships gathered in Earth's orbit for a final stand. Inside the damaged flagship, Warlord Scare prepared for his last hunt. "I will face these humans myself," he growled, strapping on his armor despite his injuries. "I will learn what makes them fight this way." Commander Vextor tried one last time to persuade him. "Warlord, our forces are scattered. We should return to our homeworld and tell them we were defeated by prey." Scar's eyes flashed. "No, I will restore our honor or die in battle." On Earth, Commander Abby Clark received new orders. Her squadron would escort a special operations team to the flagship. Their mission: capture or kill the Krozak leader. "Intelligence suggests their chain of command is breaking down," Director Wright explained during the briefing. "If we remove their warlord, we might end this war today." Greg Hudson would lead the boarding party. His team had trained with captured Krozak weapons and studied their ship layouts. They boarded a modified alien shuttle captured earlier in the battle. "We have one shot at this," Greg told his team. "Once we're aboard, we find the bridge and capture the warlord." Abby's fighters cleared a path through the alien defenses. The shuttle approached the flagship's damaged hangar and docked successfully. Greg's team moved through the corridors, encountering light resistance. Many Krozak warriors had abandoned their posts. Meanwhile, John Miller led a different mission. Using the captured alien communication system, he broadcast false retreat orders to the Krozak fleet. Some ships began pulling away from Earth, creating confusion in their ranks. In cities around the world, the remaining Krozak ground forces found themselves surrounded. Without clear leadership or support from orbit, they fought as individual hunters, making them vulnerable to coordinated human attacks. Scientist Lisa Patil monitored the battle from her laboratory. "Their bioelectric fields are weakening," she reported to Director Wright. "I think they're experiencing a collective psychological shock. They've never lost before." On the flagship's bridge, Warlord Scare waited as alarms signaled intruders. When Greg's team burst through the doors, weapons ready, they found the massive Krozak standing alone. "So," Scare said in perfect English, "the prey comes to the hunter." Greg kept his weapon aimed at the alien. "Your invasion has failed. Surrender now." Scare laughed. "Krozak do not surrender." He activated his weapon. "But before I kill you, tell me, how did your kind defeat us? You are weaker, smaller, softer." "We're not just predators," Greg replied, signaling his team to spread out. "We evolved as both predator and prey. We learned to work together to survive against bigger threats." "Cooperation is weakness," Scare snarled, though doubt showed in his eyes. "Is it?" Greg asked. "Look what it accomplished against the greatest hunters in the galaxy." Scare roared and charged. He moved with incredible speed despite his injuries, slashing at Greg with razor claws. But the human had anticipated this. He dropped to the floor, letting Scare's momentum carry him forward into a trap set by the rest of the team. Stun weapons fired from multiple directions, overloading the warlord's nervous system. Scare collapsed, paralyzed but conscious. "This isn't possible," he whispered as they bound him with specialized restraints. Greg activated his radio. "Target secured. The warlord is captured." The news spread quickly through both human and Krozak forces. Without their leader, the alien fleet fell into disarray. Some ships fled immediately. Others surrendered, an unprecedented act in Krozak history. 1 week later, Earth began rebuilding. The captured alien technology accelerated human advancement by centuries. Police officer Kate Martinez, now head of alien relations, worked with captive Krozak to establish communication with their homeworld. Major Frank Peterson led the new Earth Defense Force, incorporating the lessons learned from fighting the Krozak. "We'll be ready if they return," he promised at the international ceremony honoring those who had fallen. In a secure facility, Director Wright questioned the captured warlord. "Why did you choose Earth?" Scare looked at him with new respect. "We thought you were easy prey. We were wrong." News of the Krozak defeat spread across the galaxy. Other species, long oppressed by the hunters, looked toward Earth with hope and fear. Humans had accomplished what none thought possible. Humanity prepared to take its place among the stars, carrying an important lesson for the galaxy. Underestimate humans at your peril.